Okay, let's take a look at the college essay. So in this video, we're going to identify some components of the college essay you want to think about as you're drafting, and then I'm going to do a little bit of annotating of an essay or two. Okay, let's start with some details about which we are familiar. So the past couple years we have been working with L2, L1, L2. We know these are associations, are evidence. And this has been the ideal academic prose sentence. We always use L2 for thesis statements. We use L2 for topic sentences. And of course we put L2 in the topic strings. So this is all familiar. Now as we move to the college essay, we're going to manipulate L2 and L1 differently. So now L1 becomes more significant. And here you'll see L1 includes some showing details from your life, your memories. And so the sentences are going to change. So we're going to have less of L2. So L2 in many ways is going to start to diminish. And we're going to be building more sentences out of L1. And we're not going to worry about as much the quantity of L2. We're going to minimize that. So let's specifically talk about some aspects of the college essay again as you're drafting. But I wanted to give you an overview in terms of our language, what's going to change, and that is the relationship of L1 and L2. And as I said, L1 is going to become more important. Okay, so the big goal of the college essay is to focus on revealing something about you and who you are. And it's really the only place in your application that provides a visualization of why a college may want you to be part of its freshman class. The remaining parts of your application include mostly numbers, right? Your transcripts, your grades, other types of data. Okay, let's talk about some of the key points of the college essay. First, and this expands what I was talking about L1 and L2, is that we want to remember what these four modes are. And so the mode of narration is to tell a story. It is to create a sequence of events. Right? There's an order of details in narration. So that's a major mode that you're going to use to structure your essay. And then we have the mode of description, which is certainly similar to narration, but it stops, right? It, in a sense, stops the camera or freezes the camera, right, to allow us to visualize something very concrete. And that's what description is doing, the mode. Those showing exercises that you have done the past 3 years focused on developing the skill to freeze the camera, to stay in one place, and to recreate. So that's what that mode does. Now, I'll say this later. The college essay is not a showing exercise, but it's going to turn on these descriptive powers at various moments in the essay. Then we have the other two modes, which you're, again, very familiar with. Exposition, which is the mode that explains, it provides facts, okay, details. In many ways, this provides the who, what, when, where, details of the topic that you're talking about. And then persuasion enters as we start increasing the quantity and quality of L2. That's where you're deciding to impose on your evidence, which in this case, if we're thinking about the modes, okay, that your evidence is probably in this area. Actually exposition too, because those are details. So these three modes are, you can consider the L1. But what's going to happen in the college essay is we're going to manipulate these modes. And as I said before, we're going to diminish the presence of L2 much more than what you did in the previous 3 years of academic essays. So this is, again, a repetitive comment I'm making. Okay, a couple other ideas that I'll be repeating, we'll be talking about, is to think narrative is important, as I said, and think of your college essay as a narrative moment in time. So a very specific memory that's going to give the essay shape so that there is a very specific, in a sense, beginning moment and ending moment. And often these moments could be very brief. So, for instance, what you don't want to do is create a huge narrative, like my entire community service trip to Nicaragua. What you want to do is just isolate a very specific, as I said, confined moment. It might be a memory that actually took place in just 30 minutes. Less than 30 minutes, could be 5 minutes. So this is going to be an important issue to think about. Well, how do I give shape to the essay and think of narrative storytelling? It begins and it ends, and it's a short amount of time. Okay, you'll be thinking about, this will be very important because in this essay, you have to generate your own L1. And you have to think about the quality and quantity of L1 in different locations of the essay. So again, the whole essay is not simply going to be a story, but you need to be able to turn on the showing skills at various locations. And similarly, you're going to be also, as we move back and forth among the modes, there's an access of words, of diction. So sometimes your language is going to be very concrete and specific. And then at times you may move into more associative, abstract words. But you want to pay attention and be aware of that movement. It'll become a little bit clearer as I do some annotating of some ideal essays. But I just want to introduce this concept because that is one that will be important. At certain times in the essay, you really need to move toward the more concrete and resist having too much of the essay in the abstract. One of the key points about both this idea of the access of diction and using the descriptive mode is that this is the only place, or the primary place, when you become concrete and you use some of your showing powers, that this is where it becomes very personal. So when your words are on this continuum, the concrete, versus over here on the abstract, which is mostly the world as you know of L2, this is where it becomes very personal, and that no one can put his name on this essay because it's too personal. It refers to specific details, concrete details from your memory. But if you stay in the abstract, my year as a editor-in-chief of the yearbook of the newspaper presented many challenges. I had to interact with many people and deal with conflicts. All of this language I'm talking about right now stays in the abstract. So basically anyone could put his name to an essay like that. But once you begin moving toward the concrete, and maybe some of the narrative descriptive details talk about Mark failing to cover the Friday night football game against rival Highland Park within 72 hours, now suddenly the movement toward the concrete is becoming very personal, and not anyone can attach his name to this essay. So we'll talk more about that. So what you might realize at this point, that a lot of what we talked about in the last 3 years in CEA, you're going to be violating in this new form, in the college essay form. So you don't have to have topic sentences, traditional topic sentences. Your word glue may be completely absent because you're putting two ideas side by side just because you want to create the effect of startlement. You don't have to worry about your topic strings, of course, because you want to beware of too much L2. And again, I was hinting that the problem of too much L2 is because it prevents anyone from really getting a specific portrait of who you are when you stay in L2. So this will be, as we meet and talk about your drafts, this will be an issue that there's too much L2, which of course, again, is going to be an odd statement since the last 3 years you've been intensifying and creating that L2, L1, L2 pattern. But here you want just the image that you create to stay on the page and to say something about you. It might be an image of helping an elderly woman deal a deck of cards. So let just that image sit on the page, and that is going to say something about your compassion, your interest in helping people, but you don't have to say that. You're going to just let that image sit on the page and do its work to communicate. The reader is going to attach the L2. So we want to be careful of, we want, in a sense, some restraint with L2. Okay, I think I'll save the next video we'll end this video and have a separate one for the annotation part.